Happy days, happy people. Cody here. Welcome to your anatomy lecture. And today we're going to be speaking about the anatomy of handstands. I'm sure this is one that you've all looked forward to. It's something that I get asked so much questions about. And it's a pose that has just become more and more popular in the recent times because it's cool to be upside down on your hands. It has no functional value, I'll tell you that straight off the bat. There's no time you will need to go into a handstand, but it's cool. It brings into a nice element of self-expression, and as someone who loves doing handstands, it's a nice feeling to do and makes you feel happy when you do it. But there is quite a lot of intricate anatomy involved. It is quite a complex pose. It's evolved a lot over time too, so it's something that started off very simplistic. People would just throw themselves into handstands. Certain population groups could only do handstands, like gymnasts or people who were very, very elite in the gym. But now it's something that anyone can do. Like you can do it. You just have to train towards it and you'll be able to do it. So we're going to speak a little bit about the anatomy of it. What are we working in our body to get it? And also some of the alignments of what we can consider a good handstand. So I'm someone who doesn't like to put any sort of barriers or limitations onto people's bodily movements and say one thing is good or one thing is bad. But there is certain pain in doing handstand a certain way. So there's a way where you can do a handstand where you can just throw yourself into it. You can even banana back into it and you're in a handstand. But it's going to cause you a lot of shoulder issues later on, wrist issues later on, and lower back issues later on. So what we are going to be talking about when we do this type of handstand is the handstand that is good for your body. That is probably the most energy efficient handstand too. So we're going to be talking about energy efficiency as well. But first, let's break down the easy and most simplistic parts of what a handstand is. What is it? It is a stand on your hands, as simple as that. So literally think of yourself standing as you are. And as you can see, my feet are beneath me. It's this motion inverted, right? So I'm standing instead of on my legs, I'm standing on my hands. And you might just think, oh, well, I just copy the same things that I do with my legs, with my arms, and then boom, shakalaka, I'm in a handstand. Not so much, right? Because obviously my arms, my wrists, my hands are very different to my feet, my legs, and my upper legs, and my glutes as well. So your glutes operate in a different way than your shoulder muscles do, than your deltoids do, and your trapezius does. So there's a lot more that goes into it than just standing, right? This is the reason why, just because I can balance on one leg, and that simple transition of going on two legs to one leg is a lot more simple than going from a two-armed handstand to a one-armed handstand. It is a much more intense thing to do. So we're going to speak about why in a second. But basically what we're doing is we're also just flipping the two main axial points in our body upside down. So usually this is what we look like over here, where we have shoulders above the hips, right? And this gives us a range of balance. And as you can see, my shoulders tend to move with my hips as well. I can move them separately, but naturally they seem to move together. And they also stack. If I'm like this, it's much more hard to feel postured. And there's like a slight leaning this way and that way. But if I'm like this, then I feel more balanced. And this is the same approach we want to have with handstands. We want our hips to be above our shoulders so that we can have that same axial balance of when our shoulders are above our hips. So how do we do this? The basic handstand principle is you fold forward, you kick your legs up, and you bring your hips over your shoulders. As easy as that. Kind of. So there's a lot more involved, obviously, than just bringing your hips onto your shoulders, because that isn't as easy. What happens is a lot of the time in the kick up over, we don't have enough strength to hold ourselves from falling in the opposite direction. So we want to be straight, but sometimes we do the kick up and we start to fall, and then that's usually when we have to tumble out of the handstand. Or what happens is we don't have the core strength to even get ourselves up. Or the power or dynamosity to get your hips over your shoulders. One of those things. The next thing is in the handstand hold. So we are going to speak about the three different phases of the handstand too, which are the transition, so the transition into the handstand, actually holding the handstand, and also falling out of the handstand voluntarily and involuntarily too. But before we go into any of the actions, let's speak more about what is being used. So obviously, the hands are being used. More in particular, the fingers and the forearms. All right, so your fingers are used as your balancing points. Notice a big difference here between your hands and your feet. Your hands, the fingers are larger than the base palm. On your feet, it's the opposite. Your toes are little knobs, and your foot is the thing that gives you most of your balance. Your toes help you balance, but the foot is a lot flatter. Here, it's not like that. So that's why I say fingers and not palm. The palm helps a little bit, but it's more the fingers that help you keep your balance. And then, obviously, the fingers aren't the strong point of the body, right? As strong as your fingers are, they're not going to be able to carry the whole weight of your body in a handstand. So what helps with that? The forearm. So building up strong forearm strength is also very pivotal to doing a handstand. This can come in the form of just working on your forearms from a passive to active state. So it can literally just be raising your hands out in front of you and squeezing and opening, contracting and expanding, and just making that muscle become active and flexed. Then we go into the shoulders. So like I said, the shoulders are a pivotal point of the handstand because they start to hold you at a place where usually it's the hips that are holding you. So what happens is right now my hips are doing most of the work and my feet. But when I flip upside down, my shoulders and my hands start to take up that same weight. And as you can tell just by looking at me, who is someone who does have a little bit of a broader shoulder base, even still, my legs and my hips are a lot more bigger and longer and have much more muscularity than my arms do. So it's easier for them. They've also just got bigger bones. They're also just more aligned. And that's the next thing that we're going to speak about is the alignment. But for now, just take into consideration the joints that we're using or the area. So we're using the shoulder girdle. So we want to make sure that our alignment in the shoulder girdle is correct. Just how like if our one foot was wonky, this is hard to balance like this. I mean, I can stand like this for a bit, but it's not comfortable. And for the most part, it's just not a good place to balance because I feel like I'm going to fall over. So we need to have alignment of the shoulder girdle similar to the way that the hips are aligned. And then it comes to the muscularity. We're using something called the serratus anterior. The serratus anterior is this muscle group that runs along the side of your body because it's what keeps your shoulders locked in. You want to lock your shoulders in. They become a point of stability for your handstand and for your hands and for your torso and the rest of the body. And so we want to keep that alignment key with the engagement of the serratus anterior. So shoulder girdle, alignment, serratus anterior, engagement. Okay? Next are the hips. So the hips flip, do a little topsy-turvy and go above the shoulders. A pelvic girdle goes over or in line with the shoulder girdle. What happens here is the opposite. The hips start to lose weight. So they don't have to do much in terms of carrying, but we want to make them light, right? We want to make them as light as possible so that our shoulders can have an easier job. So what do we do with that is we engage. So we squeeze our glutes in, squeeze in our legs, and make our lower body, which becomes our upper body, light. So we make it a little pin. So think again about gravity. If my legs are open in space, it's harder for them to control. But if they're a little pin, then it's easier for them to control. And so that's what we want to do, is make our lower body lighter. Again, alignment is key here too. Because if our hips are in alignment over the shoulders and the rest of our legs are in alignment with our hips, then it all just becomes soft and it becomes like standing. right? I don't really feel my shoulders if I'm standing in a good posture unless I'm moving forward or back. And it becomes the same with the handstand. And then the other key thing here are the hip flexors. The hip flexors are more for the transition. So it's more about the transition into handstand, using the hip flexors to get yourself into that position. And the stronger your hip flexors are, the more controlled the transition can be. The more controlled the transition can be, the more likely you will come up into a handstand at every given time. Right? So even for me, I've been doing handstands a lot, and I go through phases of being very controlled in them and very not controlled in them. But I've noticed that the more I work on my hip flexors, the more I know I'm going to get into that handstand every single time. And from the people that I've met who are very controlled in their handstands, they don't even need to worry about the kick up, right? So something that I can relate it to for those of you that have done headstands, when you can bring your knees up into a headstand, so knees to chest and then straighten through that method, you know you're going to get it every time. So when I come down and I do a headstand, I know without a doubt that I'm going to be able to do it. There's no if, maybe, buts about it. With the handstand, I'm still at a point where it's like a maybe 70-30 chance that I'm going to get it or not, because I still have to kick myself a little bit. And so I have to push a little bit of energy, and sometimes I push too little or too much to get into the hold. So we want to work to be able to lift yourself in as controlled as possible. And then, before we go into more of the alignment things, I want to speak about the prep for handstands as well, which we're going to run through with one of my amazing friends who's going to come in and help us be a demonstrator for this whole little practice here and for the handstand transition. But before we go there, let's just speak about what we're going to be doing in prep. So first, you need to stretch stuff, right? So the things we need to stretch are the side body, the spine with a twist, and the hips, right? So we're opening up the hips, closing the hips, just because in transition, you're going to be using the hip flexors to kind of come up. So we want to make sure that they're open without tension in them. The twist of the spine is to give space in the spine so that, again, it's not too tight, just in case we fall or just in case we need to move out. And the side body is just providing space for the serratus anterior to work. All right, so then we go into the next spot, which is expand. So the expansion is we learn how to expand into our body's fascia and expand into our body's ability to hold itself elastically rather than through only our muscle groups. This is something we do by practicing a hollow-shouldered tabletop or downward-facing dog, which you'll see in a second. But it's basically making this shape with your body. So instead of just being like this, you're like this. This means that I'm using more of my full body rather than just my arms to hold myself up. And then the last one we do is engage. So we engage the full body. Handstand is a full body movement. So what we do is we just mimic that movement lying down by something called the hollow body. And this engages all of the things that I've just mentioned now, the glutes, the hip flexors, the serratus anterior, even the forearm and fingers, but it does it without any weight. So we'll practice those in a bit. But let's first just talk about the alignment before we go into things. So as these extremely well-drawn pictures depict here, we have the hips and the shoulders, right? They're represented by lines and dots. This is a regular standing shape. What happens is if we go here, so again, this is the hips, these are the shoulders. What we're doing is we're bending, and then we're launching our hips up over our shoulders with our legs, and we're holding it in that line. This is what your handstand should basically look like. Shoulders, hips, legs. And then your hands are somewhere down here too. All in alignment, so it all creates a nice straight line. If there's a little bit of a topsy-turvy one way or the other, it means that your muscles are doing more of the work or that your alignment is a little bit off. Why though? So, like I said before, you can get into a handstand where you just use your strength to lift up into your handstand. And this is why handstand can be broken down actually into 3 different things that help you do it. 1, strength. 2, balance. And 3, flexibility. So if you have a excess, especially in flexibility and strength. Balance, not so much. Balance is a good one. But if you have an excess in strength and flexibility, sometimes you will rely on this to put you in your handstand. If you're really strong, then you just throw yourself into it and you use your muscles to hold you there. But again, this, no matter how strong you are, starts to deteriorate on your muscles. The other one is flexibility. So if you're super flexible, it's easy for you to pop your hips over your shoulders, but you might not have the muscularity to hold you there, so instead you start to fall into your joints. So you start to use your ligaments and your tendons to hold you up, which again is just detrimental to your joint health. The other one is balance. And why I like balance so much is because, one, it's a mixture of the two, right? Balance means when two things come together to help each other out. And there's not too much or too little of anything. So for me, the main key in a handstand is balance. And so for the access tilts, for getting this tilt and maintaining it, it is a combination of power and balance, the holding. The getting into it is a combination of power, balance, and flexibility. But to hold it, power and balance. And so I personally, this is just a personal thing that I'm offering to you or speaking about, is I personally feel it should be about 30% power and 70% balance. When I'm in a good handstand, I don't feel like I'm using a lot of my muscles. I feel like I'm just balanced really well. I feel very focused. And I feel like the more focused I am, the more I can control it. Eventually my arms get tired, but not as fast as it would be or as painful as it would be if I just throw myself into the handstand. So power and balance are what we need to transition, hold, and fall in our handstands. And then the last thing I'll speak about is the dristi. So the dristi is where you look, your gaze points. And I'm going to give you two options. Option one is you just look at your hands, right? This is a great dristi to have, especially initially. The only thing with that is, yes, you can think of the alignment. If I'm looking like this, then my cervical spine is slightly lifted. So my head is a little bit forward. So that means my alignment isn't completely straight, and I'm using some muscle that I probably don't need to be using. It's much more difficult, and more than anything, just a bit scary when you do the other dristi that I mentioned, which is looking forward. So instead of looking at your hands, you look at your toes, essentially, is a nice cue that we use. But it can be a bit scary, and then it relies a lot more on balance, and that's the final thing I'm going to say, is balance is a little bit more scary because you're surrendering a little bit more. You have to be really calm when you're balancing. Just think of when you're balancing, right? You're holding yourself up, and especially when you close your eyes or if you start to change shape, you might have the muscularity to hold yourself there. But it's more this internal feeling of being unsteady or being so balanced that you're not in control, that you're just there by some will of God or nature, and it's keeping you there, but you're not really keeping yourself there. It's a very weird surrendering of your body into a shape or an alignment. And so with all of those things being said, when it comes to practicing handstands, keep alignments in mind, keep your idea of how you're going to form the shape, and then it just comes down to practice. So we're going to practice a little bit now. So I'm going to invite my amazing friend Mon to come in. Everyone, this is Monica. You may be seen her in other videos that we've done together. She's an amazing yoga teacher and practitioner. And she's been working on her handstands a little bit. So we're gonna play a bit with that. So first, let's just go for the preparatory things. So as we know in yoga, it's good to prep first. And so we're gonna start by just doing some stretches. So Mon's gonna start with a nice quick side body stretch. You can use any side body stretch you like. Monica's choosing this Janu Shursasana variation. And again, all that she's doing is she's just stretching out the side of her body. Again, here's the serratus anterior running along the ribs. And what she's doing, she's just giving it space, right? So she's starting to stretch it, stretching the muscles here and the psoas, stretching a little bit of the shoulder and the lats and the deltoids so that it can work. Because if these guys are tense, then this cannot work. And this is also a slight spinal twist as well. And then she's going to do the other side. Beautiful. And she's going to do a nice little spinal twist too. So seated spinal twist again. Any spinal twist works, whatever feels comfortable for you at that moment. We're kind of just going into this, so Mon's not super, super warm, but she's just getting a little bit of preparation for her handstand. Nice. And again, the spinal twist just releases certain things in the vertebra. It releases space for muscles to be active and releases a bit of tension in the spine that's about to be compressed quite a bit. And then finally hips. So yeah, just a lovely little butterfly is perfect. You don't need to do anything too extreme. If you want to, you can do a wide leg forward fold, anything that just opens up your hips a little bit more. It doesn't need to be a super stretch, but it does help a little bit, especially in the transition phase. But it also helps just being a bit more open in that area because you want to bring it over your shoulders. Beautiful. Now we're going to come into our expansion moves. So these expansion moves, one, are just going to teach us the technique as well that we want to be using. And it's going to start to open us up in the areas that we want to remain open and start to use fascia instead of muscle in these movements. So Mon's already gone into this. It's basically like a super exaggerated cow pose. You can see here that Mon's really pushed up into her shoulders. She's pressing her shoulder blades away. She's tucking in her chin. And she's creating a lot of strength here. And a lot of the strength is happening also from this. It takes these muscles contracting in to press up here. This is expanding. These muscles aren't contracting. These muscles are contracting. So she's pushing up into where my hand is, which is how we do that. So this is the base level contraction and expansion and engagement of this area. And then if you want to take it a step further, you can come into a downward dog. And then again, do the same thing. So it's a great way to just walk out your dog. And then again, round through the elbows a little bit. Boom. And press up into here. So a little bit more. There we go. So allow for your dog to be a little bit rounded. Press, 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 press. And then finally, you can start to roll into a bit of a plank too and do the same thing, but from a plank pose. So you can walk your hands forward if you need to as well. Just make yourself a nice elongated plank. A little bit more. Cool. And just press up in your plank. Good. Again, pressing up into those muscles there. Wonderful. And then even from the plank, you can start to play with how it's going to feel by moving yourself back and forth. So yeah, there you're putting a lot more pressure in the wrists. And you can see Mon's got the white of her fingertips showing, so you know she's squeezing into the ground and she's setting herself up. She could, though, bring her arms a little bit closer together. Perfect. And release. Good. The last thing we're going to do is our hollow body. So this is just coming to the back. Good. And so something I just want to show you guys here. So if Mon does nothing, I can fit my hand underneath her lower back. You don't have to move, just relax. Yeah. So she doesn't have it too bad, actually, but still, I can put my hand here. But now, if you press your lower back down, lift your chin up to get a little bit more emphasis in that. Good. Now I can't put my hand here. So now, let's see Mon go into the full position by lifting up her legs, squeezing them together. Good. And this is her hollow body right here. So you can see she's making that same shape. Can fit my hand underneath. And she can relax. And then she can also do one where she actually goes into like a laying down handstand. So you can make the arm positions. You can even look towards your hands for a little bit. Go make sure everything's good. And then you're just going to look forward. Just look up at here. And do the same thing. So raising up, pressing in, engaging the abdomen. And she's fully engaged. So Mon, I'm going to give you a little poke just to show how engaged you are. So she's engaged here, here, here. It's all hard. It's all firm. Everything is engaged. I cannot put my hand underneath. She's pressing down. And she's engaged here too. And her face is like, I'm doing a handstand. So good job. Shake it out a little bit. Perfect. So those are our preparations, right? We stretch, expand, engage, and then we start to move into the technique and the alignment. So this is where things get important. You want to maintain that alignment that Monica just had. Her legs were together, they were pointed, her shoulders were in line with her hips, And now she's just going to do that all upside down, but let's practice a fun little transition to get there. Okay. All good?
Yes.
Cool. So we're going to go for the high lunge transition. There's multiple ways you can go into a handstand. You can literally just stand and just fling yourself over and down. But we're going to go into a more controlled way for people who are scared of doing handstands without the wall. It's really more for that. I don't encourage much wall training. If you're going to do it, great, but just do it in the right way, and I'll say what that is in a second. But this is a way to do it without any wall, right? Because you're going to be doing it from such a controlled place. So Mon's just going to come into a high lunge. Beautiful. Hands up high. And she's going to make her handstand hands. Handstand hands. Perfect. She's going to make that full engagement already. So round through the back. Imagine you're about to go into a handstand. Great. And she's going to forward fold. She's going to go as deep as she can so she's flat on her palms. And she's not going to jump yet, but she's just going to lift up the back foot. Yep, straighten that other one. Yeah, good. And just put more of your weight into your palms a bit. Perfect. This is the starting point, right? So this is a very slow movement of how Mon's going to go into handstand. Come back. Just come back up. Good. So we're going to do that one more time, but I'm going to do it very slowly with her. She's going to do it bit by bit, and I'm going to help her lift up. That's cool? Okay. So she's going to come down, and she's just doing what she's doing. Good. Hand goes in. Good. Squeeze here, so press against my hand, and then start to lift. There we go. Now squeeze my hand together. Perfect. Relax your head. Amazing. And slowly come down. Good. Shake it off. Cool. So you saw how controlled that was, right? That was the control that we would love to have. Obviously, we're not always going to have someone there to help lift you up into this handstand. But also, as someone who is doing handstand teaching, like I've just done, this is a great way to do it without getting kicked in the face. I've been kicked in the face so many times from handstands, but it's not the person's fault, it's my fault. It's because I've been standing here, and I'm like, don't do it. I don't want to kick in the face. But I'm like, jump into me. And then there's just legs flying everywhere, and someone gets hit in the face, and you're like, no, it's fine. And you go home and you cry, because it was actually really painful. But we're going to do it in a way that's controlled. That was super, super controlled. There's no way that I'm getting kicked in the face. And Monica gets to see what it feels like to be engaged. All right, so we're going to do it one more time. Again, super slow. Then we're just going to start to speed it up, and I'm also going to start to leave her alone eventually. So up, forward fold, good. Leg comes up, good. Press into my hand with that leg, nice. And then I start to help lift her. See how easy it is for me and how easier it is for her. Good, squeeze my hands. Good, and slowly come down. Good, we're doing the transition first. We're not going to do the holding just yet. Okay, good?
Yes.
Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to speed it up slightly, right? So just come into that high lunge. All right, take it easy. So you're going to listen to my cues. I know you're going to want to jump in, and this is something with handstands that always happens. People are like, I'm just going to do it, fluffer. Right? But just do it slowly, because I'm still here, you're still here, we're still doing it slow, but we're going to do it in one full motion. So handstand, no pausing in between this time. So you're going to go, zhoop, leg up, kick a little bit, hop, yeah, and into that. Beautiful. Squeeze my hand, and back down. Nice. Feeling okay? Cool. One more time, a little bit more fluid even. So just all the way, zhink, and my hand's going to be there to help. So you don't even have to worry about me too much. Imagine that so first things first, focus on this leg, all right? So this leg is going to help pop you up. This back leg is going to be the one that you're trying to bring over. That one you don't have to worry too much about. This one is the one you're worrying about, okay? And I'm going to be there to help you. So down, up, hop, nice, and back up. Good. And come down. All right, feeling okay? Okay. So now, that was great, super, super controlled, but it's going to be difficult for Mon to do that level of controlledness without my help. So that's when this idea of momentum comes into the transitions, right? So initially you are going to be using momentum to get into your transitions, but you want to make that momentum as slight as possible and as controlled as possible. So momentum comes in the movement from here down. That's stage 1. Saman, I would like for you to practice that. So just come into your high lunge. Is that your good leg, by the way?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So we have different legs that are easier to go off of. Find your handstand position, and I'm not going to help you so much. I'll be here just in case you go this way. But just get a small little hop up, right? You don't even have to go for the handstand, but just give a little hop. Yeah, exactly. Come back up, though. Try to do that whole motion in one go. Hop. Yeah. See how much height you got there? Yeah? Perfect. So that means you worked with momentum. So if Mon had to do it step by step, so do it again, but without momentum. So high lunge. Just listen to my cueing. Fold forward. Don't do anything. Yep. Leg up. Now hop. See how harder that was? Yeah. Much more difficult. When you use the momentum of your hand swinging down and the leg coming up, it becomes a lot easier. So try that one more time. Use that. You can start to see, okay, I need to add a little bit more to maybe get a little bit more into the handstand. The next step that you can add for the momentum is to step into the high lunge. So it makes it a little bit more complicated in your head, but you're going to step into the high lunge and then go down. But let's break it down bit by bit. So step into the high lunge, hands up, forward fold, kick. Yeah, and back. Beautiful. Also notice how she's coming back, guys. So this is what we call the falling out. Look how seamlessly she's going up and down, right? She's not coming down kind of, and then she's crouched over and she's like, oh, wiggling herself back up. She's coming all the way back up, which is what we want. A lot of the time we see people, they come into do a handstand and then they don't get it and they stay low and then they try kick up again. This causes a lot of tension in the body, which is unnecessary. Instead, reset and do it again just to keep healthy movement patterns. And if you do like Mon's just been doing, you just let the momentum take you back and forth, you get less fatigued. You're also not just trying to be like, and jumping yourself into the pose. So let's try one more time. So step, up, and nice. Good. Perfect. Now, try and do that all in one motion. So you're stopping a little bit when you do this. So right now, already prepare for your handstand. Exactly. Step down. Yeah. Exactly. One more time. Perfect. Get a little bit more out of that lunge. Yes. Cool. Do you want to try hold one? Okay, go for it. All right. Squeeze my hand. All right, now Monica's up. I'm going to be here for just a little bit. She's going to tuck in her pelvis a little bit. So listen to my body, my hand. All right, bring this here. Press more through the shoulders. Squeeze my hand. Squeeze more. Breathe. Good. And slowly release down. How did that feel? Okay, good. So she was coming over a little bit. Again, it's different men and women, so many different things to take into consideration. Women have bigger hips than men, so to control that is a little bit more. They have to tuck their tailbone in just a little bit more than men do because we don't have that arch usually. Some guys do, some guys don't. So there's a little bit more control needed for that. And also, it will always look just slightly a bit more different. Excuse my pardon, but just because women have more butt than guys do. So they just have more butt, right? In a very beautiful way. They just have a little bit more butt. So there's always going to be, instead of just a straight line, which you might be able to see from a guy, or maybe a gymnast who just, again, excuse my pardon, but they just don't have as many curves as a lot of other people do because they're more fitness-based. So it'll look straight. But your handstand might have a slight curve because you got a bit of butt, and that's wonderful. It's just something that you're going to see and you're going to be like, oh, okay. But it's not your alignment being out. It's just that you've got a bit of butt. Cool. Enough butt talk. Let's try it one more time, and I want you to try and hold it now. So I'm going to be here. What's cool about this is Monica hasn't really practiced this method that much, so you're kind of learning with her at the same time. And this is how I would teach someone in the beginning anyway. Yeah, give it a go. Nice. Okay, good. Go. Squeeze your legs together. You can hold it. Squeeze. Yeah. Press up. Perfect. Squeeze. Find your balance point a bit. It's about there. Yes. Nice. Boop. Good job. Thanks, Mon. Beautiful. Thank you so much. And that's how you would teach someone. So Monica is someone who's obviously been doing handstands for a fair amount of time. Not too much, but it's something that's in her practice. So she wasn't like beginner. So beginner, you just, it depends on their level of athleticism. If they're just starting yoga and they're like, I want to do handstands, just tell them to take an ego break and just say, let's work first maybe on some arm balances. Let's just first on doing a plank, right? Can you do a plank? If they can't do a plank, then they're not going to do a handstand. It's just something they're not going to be going into. Even if they want to, if they're going to end up hurting themselves. So take it step by step, right? Tabletop, plank, chaturanga, arm balances, crow pose, crane pose, all the different arm balances, Tetubandhasana, all of these, just getting a feeling of what it feels like to have your weight on your arms only. And then start moving into doing handstands. And then you can start doing the process that I just did with Monica, where you get them to stretch to certain areas, find their shape, engage, and then do that lovely little practice that we did. Notice how I wasn't needed that much. I barely fatigued myself in that. Mon, I'm sure, fatigued herself a little bit. But even so, I hope that it felt better than a lot of the messy handstand practices that we do for ourselves sometimes. That can just feel not good in the body. And so just a final few things to remember. Number one, when it comes to training handstands, just train for a little bit of time a day. Right? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, stop. Until you start to fatigue. As soon as you start fatiguing, stop. Because you're going to develop bad movement patterns and you're going to get frustrated. Right? You're not going to be able to do a handstand if you've never done it in a day. You might, get into a handstand where you can hold it for a second. But to be able to hold a really proper handstand without injury, it takes a little bit of time and practice. So give yourself time, be patient. All right? The other thing that we need to remember is to stretch afterwards. So once we've just done our handstands, go into a full cool down session by just reversing everything we've just done. Do the side body stretches again. Do some hamstring stretches. Definitely do a back bend. A back bend is a beautiful way to open up the body that you've just been compressing and contracting. And then finally, have fun with it. Like, let it be something you do for fun. Like I said, in terms of functionality, it's not a huge functional pose, but it's super fun. So make it fun. Don't make it a stress. Keep the alignment in mind. It shouldn't feel as difficult as maybe it will be feeling for you. And then, I guess I said I'll speak about using the wall. So when using the wall, use the wall this way instead of this way. So say, this is my wall. Instead of doing handstands like this against the wall, do the practice that I just did with Mon. But if you want to build up some sort of strength or get an idea, then use the wall this way. So when I do my handstand, I put my legs on the wall, and then I walk my legs up to the wall so that I can feel what it's like to be a handstand, chest towards the wall, and then you can slowly bring your legs a little bit away from the wall to help. I'm sure you can find lots of material on that online as well. And in essence, that's all that we need to speak about. Last few things, fingers, forearm, engagement, make sure that your fingers are wide and spread, slightly turned in, forearm squeezed. Maybe you might need a small micro bend in the elbows. If you have hyperextension in your elbows, don't let yourself fall into hyperextension. Even if you can do a handstand with hyperextension, it's just not good for your elbows at all. So just rather either keep it slightly bent or a little bit straight. Shoulder girdle, press up through the shoulders. Press in through the shoulders, right? So instead of just letting your shoulders sit collapsed, press into the shoulders so that you're pressing away. You want to act as if you're pushing the world away from you, like you're Hercules or Herculewoman, Wonder Woman. I guess she's the gender opposite of Hercules. Engage your serratus anterior. Get yourself working with these muscle groups over here that are wrapping around the rib cage. Squeeze into them. Bring this into your daily practice. This is just a good way to be quadrupedal and do any form of arm balancing. Engaging the serratus anterior. Hips, open up the hips. Be comfortable in squeezing the legs together. Learn what it means to make the legs light. Make the whole body light through your hollow body movements. And then also stretch the hip flexors and focus on transitioning. So we just did one form of transition, the high lunge, boop, 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 transition. There's a whole bunch of other transitions too. You can do a transition where you just hop with both legs into it. There is the press handstand, which I wish I could show you, but it's something that I'm still working on quite a lot. And that's basically where you just come into a handstand. From here, you fold down, you tuck your knees in, and then you lift up. Super amazing, really powerful to do. Takes a lot of stretching, takes a lot of engagement, takes a lot of expansion in the body, but very possible. And then at the end of the day, just don't hurt yourself, right? The one thing that we didn't cover that's a good thing to cover, I guess, is the falling. So the falling of the handstand, just let yourself naturally lean over to the one side. So if I'm going into my handstand, and I'm about to fall, I just shift weight, boop, and then I basically do a little cartwheel. That's it. You don't have to collapse your arms. Right? If you just keep your arms straight and you just do a handstand and you do too much, just keep your arms straight and then just fall. And you'll be good. And other than that, it's a pretty simple thing to start practicing. Start just by getting the alignment right, working with all the preparations. And we do have a handstand asana prep class in the Ulu Yoga Asana lectures or classes that we teach, so you can go and watch that, and that'll take you for like an hour and a half through an entire yoga class based on doing handstands, and that'll help you out. And that's it from me. So I hope you've learned something. Take this into your practice. You want to do a handstand? Fantastic. You've just learned how. Have an absolutely amazing day, and I'll see you next time.